All right, I want to start us off with a little bit of a guessing game today.
Okay, I'm game. Lay it on me.
I've got a percentage for you, 20%. I want you to tell me what you think it represents.
20%.
It's specifically, it's 20% of all divorce cases filed in the United States. What do you think is the cause cited?
Wow, 20% is? That's 1 in 5. That's a huge number.
It's massive.
My first guess would be the usual suspects. So, financial trouble. That's always at the top of the list. Or maybe infidelity in the traditional sense.
You are so close with that second one. It is a form of infidelity, but the specific tool, the specific platform named as the catalyst is Facebook.
Facebook. Not like a dating app or something more obvious, just Facebook.
Just plain old Facebook.
Okay.
20% of American divorces. But hang on, because it actually gets much, much worse.
How could it get worse than that?
We hop across the pond to Italy. A similar study was done there, but they were looking at WhatsApp.
Oh, boy.
Do you want to try and guess the number for WhatsApp in Italy?
Well, Italy has that reputation for being a bit more, let's say, passionate. So the number has to be higher. I'm going to go with 30%, maybe 35.
40.
40.
40% of divorce cases in Italy had WhatsApp messages presented as evidence of an affair.
I'm actually speechless. That is terrifying. You're telling me that nearly half of the broken families, the broken marriages in a major Western country can be traced back to a little green icon on a phone screen.
It sounds like a headline from a tech blog, right? How social media is destroying modern romance.
Exactly. Or some kind of, dystopian sci-fi story.
But here is where our deep dive takes a very sharp turn. Because the source material we are looking at today is not a tech blog. It's not a sociology paper from the last 5 years.
Not even close.
We are looking at a source that is centuries old. It's a detailed lecture that's analyzing a section of a classical text on spiritual discipline. And that section has the very ominous title, The Quarter of Destructive Things.
Which I have to say sounds like the title of a summer blockbuster horror movie.
It really does. The Quarter of Destructive Things. But it's not a horror movie. It's more like a medical textbook for the soul. It performs an autopsy on the human heart to figure out why it fails.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're taking this ancient manual for heart surgery and holding it up against that 40% statistic. We're trying to understand the deep underlying mechanics of why we self-destruct.
It's the modern application of ancient wisdom that gets me so excited.
And this is what I find so compelling about this particular source. Because usually when we talk about things like phone addiction or digital cheating, the conversation is so superficial.
Right. The advice is just turn on grayscale or put your phone in the other room.
It's behavioral tricks. But this source goes right under the hood. It ignores the car and focuses on the engine. It argues there are two specific, let's call them gateways, that allow destruction into a person's life. Two wide open doors.
The lower desire and the upper desire.
Precisely. The desire for physical intimacy, for the satisfaction of the appetite, that's the lower one, starting from the gut. And then the unrestrained tongue, the upper one, from the mouth.
So 2 gateways, one physical, one verbal.
And the central argument of the whole text is that if you don't post a security guard at these 2 gates, your entire spiritual bank account gets drained down to 0. It's a matter of resource protection.
I really like that framing, the security guard. It's not about shame or guilt. It's about resource management. You're just protecting your assets from thieves.
You are. You're protecting your time, your focus, your spiritual state.
Okay, so let's start where the text starts. Let's go to that first gateway, the lower desire. The biological drive for intimacy.
Right.
Now, most of the time, religious texts just come at this with a hammer. They say, stop it. It's bad. Don't do it. Full stop.
Yeah.
But this source, it does something really interesting. It takes a detour first.
It does. It starts with the physiology of it all. It asks a really fundamental question. Why is this software installed in us in the first place?
It's a design question.
A total design question. If this desire is the root cause of 40% of divorces, if it causes so much pain and heartbreak and, spiritual ruin, why would the creator put it inside of us? Why design a creature with such a volatile flaw?
And the source gives 2 answers. The first one is, well, it's the obvious one.
It's Biology 101, the survival of the species. Procreation.
Right. Without that drive, we don't have children. Humanity lasts for 1 generation and then lights out.
It's the same reason eating is pleasurable. If getting nutrients was a chore, we'd forget to do it and starve to death. The pleasure is the engine that drives the necessary function. So, reason 1 is purely functional. It keeps civilization going.
But reason Reason 2 is the one that really made me pause.
Yeah.
It's far more philosophical.
This is what I call the benchmark theory. It's a fascinating idea. The source argues that this intense physical desire exists as a teaching tool for the afterlife.
Okay, you're going to have to walk me through that one.
Yeah.
How does a biological urge, a chemical reaction in my brain, teach me anything about heaven?
Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to sell something to someone, but they have absolutely no frame of reference for what you're offering.
Okay.
If I tell you the reward in the afterlife is a state of unimaginable bliss, what does that word bliss actually mean to you? It's just an abstract concept. Your brain can't latch onto it. It's like trying to describe the color red to someone who's been blind from birth.
I get that you can use words like warm or intense, but they'll never really know.
They'll never know. So the source argues that the intensity of physical pleasure in this life it's a free sample. It's the guy at Costco giving you a taste of the teriyaki chicken.
Okay, I like that analogy.
It's meant to be a reference point, a benchmark. It's designed to make you stop and think, wow, if a temporary, fleeting biological reaction feels this good, I cannot even begin to imagine what the permanent, spiritual, real version must feel like.
So the pleasure we feel here isn't the destination itself. It's just a signpost pointing toward the real destination.
That's it exactly. It's data. It's there to calibrate your desire for something much, much higher. The whole problem, and this is where the quarter of destructive things comes in, is when people mistake the free sample for the entire meal.
They get obsessed with the Costco sample and never actually buy the product.
They just keep circling the free sample table for their whole lives, thinking that's all there is.
That is a profound way to look at it. It reframes the entire discussion away from this is a shameful, dirty thing and toward this is a powerful tool that you are misunderstanding the purpose of.
Correct. But the source doesn't let us stay up in those philosophical clouds for too long.
Right.
It yanks us right back down to earth with a very, very stark warning.
Right. The mood changes quickly.
It does. It basically says, okay, we've explained why this high voltage power line is installed in your house. It's there to power the light's procreation and understanding the afterlife. But you need to understand, if you touch the live wire, it will burn your entire house to the ground.
And this is where we have to tackle some of the language in the text that, for a modern reader can sound a bit jarring.
For sure.
The text, when discussing male desire, refers to women as snares or traps.
Yeah. And when you hear a word like snare, your mind immediately goes to a hunter trapping an innocent animal. It sounds predatory. It sounds, frankly, misogynistic.
It does. So how do we understand that in context?
We have to look at the psychology being discussed, not just the words being used. The lecturer quotes a statement attributed to the prophet, which says, "I have not left behind a trial more harmful to men than women."
So on the surface, that sounds like it's saying women are inherently harmful.
Which is not the point at all. The source is making a statement about male vulnerability. It's identifying a security flaw in the male operating system. It's saying that for the average man, the internal firewall against this specific type of temptation is incredibly, incredibly weak.
So it's not a comment on the nature of women, but on the nature of male attraction.
Precisely. It's acknowledging the sheer volatility of that specific chemical reaction. And to illustrate just how volatile it is, the lecturer brings up this amazing quote from one of the righteous men in history. And I love this quote because it draws such a clear line between greed and lust.
This is the test of trust.
The test of trust, yes. The man says, and I'm paraphrasing here, "You could lock me in a room with a massive treasury of gold and jewels. I would trust myself completely. I could sit there for days and not take a single coin. But," he says, "I would not trust myself to be alone with a woman for even a single hour."
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
Think about the psychology of that. A treasury of gold represents immense worldly power. With that money, he could buy an army, a palace, anything he desires. That's a logical temptation.
You can reason your way out of it. You can think, no, stealing is wrong. It has consequences. I don't need this.
You can have a whole internal debate. But the other temptation, it bypasses the logic centers of the brain entirely. It goes straight for the reptile brain.
It's a different circuit.
It's a completely different circuit. And the source is arguing that you can be the most honest, principled, upright accountant in the world, perfectly trustworthy around millions of dollars, but that integrity offers you zero protection when this biological drive is triggered.
So acknowledging that isn't insulting to your own character. It's just a necessary survival strategy.
It's just good risk assessment. You don't guard a pile of dynamite the same way you guard a pile of bricks, even if they're the same size. And this brings us to the core mechanism of how this explosion actually happens. The source dives deep into the concept of seclusion.
Okay, so let's define that term. Classically, seclusion has a very specific meaning, right?
It does. The classical definition is a man and a woman who are not married or closely related being physically alone together in a closed space. A room, a house, an office after hours.
And the famous saying is, when a man and a woman are alone, the third party present is the devil.
Right. That's the classic equation for disaster. Proximity plus privacy equals temptation.
But this is where the lecturer gives us the 21st century update. He points out that in the old world, whether you're talking about, say, 10th century Baghdad or 19th century London, achieving that kind of physical seclusion was actually a logistical challenge.
It was a high-friction activity. Think about it. You had to coordinate a time to meet. You had to find a physical location that was private. You had to make sure the neighbors didn't see you walking in. You had to worry about your reputation, about being spotted.
There were a dozen social and practical barriers you had to climb over before you can even get to the point of being tempted.
Exactly. And all of that friction gave you time to think. It gave you opportunities to back out. You might be walking to the rendezvous point and think, you know what, this is a really bad idea, and just turn around and go home.
The friction was a safety mechanism.
It was. But now, the source introduces a new term, and it's a chilling one: virtual seclusion.
And here we are, right back at that 40% WhatsApp statistic.
This is the mechanism. And the source makes a very bold claim. It says that virtual seclusion is actually more dangerous than physical seclusion.
That seems counterintuitive, though. I mean, you can't physically touch someone through a screen, so shouldn't it be safer? Less of a big deal.
That's the logical assumption, but think about it from a friction perspective. Why is it more dangerous?
Well, I guess it's the ease of access, the complete lack of barriers.
It's the total evaporation of friction. The lecturer highlights something that is genuinely terrifying when you think about it. You can be in a state of virtual seclusion while you are sitting on the couch right next to your spouse.
Yeah.
You can be at the dinner table with your entire family, physically surrounded by people who love you, but in your mind, in your heart, you are alone in a locked digital room with a stranger.
That image of being alone in a crowd really gives me chills.
It's the ultimate stealth technology for sin. No one sees it. There are no witnesses. And because it feels safe, because you're just sitting in your living room in your pajamas, your guard is completely down.
You don't get the same adrenaline rush or fear signals that you would if you were, physically sneaking into a hotel room to meet someone.
None at all. Your body is telling you you're safe while your soul is walking off a cliff.
And to really hammer home this point about the danger of ease of access, the expert in the lecture uses this incredible analogy. For me, this was the absolute highlight of the whole deep dive, the hunting analogy.
The trial of the game, yes. This is a deep cut from religious history, but its application to the smartphone is so perfect it's almost scary.
So set the scene for us. What is this trial?
Okay, so the context is a group of companions of the prophet who are on a pilgrimage. They are in a special state of sanctity, and one of the core rules of this state is that hunting is absolutely forbidden. You cannot kill any game. If you do, you've broken a major rule.
And normally hunting is difficult, right?
Normally hunting is very high friction. You have to track the animal, a gazelle or a rabbit. You have to be silent. You have to have skill with a bow or a spear. You have to chase it down. It's hard work.
So the temptation isn't that great because the effort required is so high.
Precisely. But the source describes a specific test that God sent to these people. He caused the wild game animals that are naturally skittish and terrified of humans to lose all their fear. They started walking right up to the pilgrims' encampment.
Just wandering in.
The text says the game came so close it was within reach of their hands and their spears. You didn't even have to aim and throw the spear. You could literally just be sitting there and reach out and grab a rabbit for dinner.
That is psychological torture. You're tired, you're hungry, the law says you can't hunt, and a delicious meal just walks right up and basically offers itself to you.
It is the ultimate test of integrity. Because the test was no longer, are you a good enough hunter to catch this animal? The test became, can you restrain yourself when committing the sin is completely and utterly effortless?
When the barrier to entry drops to zero.
And that's the connection. The smartphone is the gazelle walking up to your hand. Think about the entire business model of Silicon Valley. Tech companies spend billions and billions of dollars with a single goal in mind: remove all friction.
One-click ordering, swipe right for a date. Instant streaming.
They want to reduce the time between the moment you feel a desire I want, and the moment you get that desire fulfilled, I have, to zero, or as close to zero as possible.
So we aren't just facing this test occasionally. We are living in the trial of the game, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It's our permanent state of being. You don't have to go to a library to get information. You don't have to go to a shady part of town to find illicit content. You don't have to go to a bar to start an affair. The gazelle is in your pocket. It buzzes, it vibrates, it's always there.
And the real test of our character, then, is not what we do when things are hard, but what we don't do when sin becomes easy.
That's it. Do you abstain when nobody is watching? And it would be so easy to just reach out and take it. And those divorce statistics, they tell us that millions and millions of us are failing that test every single day.
Because when the external friction is gone, we're forced to confront the fact that our internal brakes, they aren't nearly as strong as we thought they were.
We were relying on the difficulty of the sin to protect us, not our own character.
So let's follow that path. What happens when the brakes fail? The source describes this as a downward spiral. It's not like you go from a single DM to a divorce overnight. There are stages.
No, it's a gradual corruption of the heart. The source describes how this excessive indulgence, even if it's just digital, leads to a state of passion or infatuation.
Which is funny because in modern pop culture, passion is seen as a great thing. We're told to be passionate about our work, our hobbies.
But the text uses it in a very different way. It describes this kind of illicit infatuation as one of the ugliest desires a person can have.
Why ugly? Because it's forbidden.
Ugly because it enslaves you. The human heart, in this worldview, is designed to be free. It's designed to be focused on its ultimate purpose, on connection with the divine, on serving family and community. When you become infatuated in this way, the source says your heart becomes a prisoner to an image.
It hijacks your mental CPU.
It completely hijacks it. You literally cannot stop thinking about that person. They occupy your thoughts when you wake up, when you're trying to work, when you're trying to sleep. Your heart is no longer your own. It's been taken over by a JPEG on a screen.
The lecture tells a story here that, it's just haunting. The anecdote about the singer, it really drives this point home in a tragic way.
It really is a tragedy. It's about a man who was, by all accounts, genuinely trying to turn his life around. He decided to become more religious. He repented for his past mistakes. He started praying regularly. He gave up all the major obvious sins. He was making a real effort.
He was cleaning up his act.
But he left one little loophole for himself, one blind spot.
The singer.
He was obsessed with a particular Arab singer. He just loved his music, loved his voice. He would listen to him constantly for hours a day. And he probably justified it to himself, or like, hey, I gave up drinking. I gave up partying. What's the harm in listening to a few songs? It's just art.
It seems so minor in comparison to the other things he quit.
It seems trivial, but the attachment wasn't trivial. It grew and grew until it became a full-blown infatuation. The story concludes on his deathbed. In his final moments on earth, the time when a person of faith is supposed to be focused on God, saying prayers, seeking forgiveness, he couldn't do it.
What happened?
He started singing the lyrics of his favorite songs by that singer. That's what was in his heart. And he passed away with the song on his lips instead of a prayer.
Wow. That is deeply unsettling.
It's a stark illustration of the principle that whatever you fill your heart's reservoir with is what's going to spill out when you get bumped by a crisis, like death.
So what's inside comes out under pressure.
Always. And this man had filled his heart with entertainment, with this infatuation, so that's what spilled out at the very end. It's a terrifying warning that these harmless infatuations aren't just a hobby. They can be a hostile takeover of your soul.
So how do we stop the takeover? We all have these impulses. We all see that gazelle walking up to our saddle every day on our phones. The source provides a very practical, very visual tool for this. The beast in the alley.
This is the how-to section of the text. This is the actionable advice. And I want everyone listening to really try and visualize this scenario.
Okay.
Imagine you are riding a large animal, a horse, a donkey, a mule, doesn't matter. You're riding it down a wide street, and up ahead you see a very narrow alleyway. Or maybe a very small doorway that the animal can't possibly fit through.
And the animal, which represents your desire, your impulse, it gets curious. It starts to drift toward that narrow opening.
Now, at this point, you are still 10 feet away from the alley. Your animal's head just starts to turn. What do?
Well, it's easy. I just pull on the reins a little bit. I give a little tug to the left, and the animal's head turns back to the center.
How much strength does that require?
Almost none. A gentle nudge. It's a tiny correction.
Exactly. You turn the head, the animal looks away, and you just keep walking down the main street. Crisis completely averted. That tiny, effortless tug on the reins represents the first moment of temptation. The first notification that pops up, the first glance you could take, you just swipe it away. You avert your eyes. Minimal effort, maximum effect.
Okay, but what if you don't do that? What if you're distracted and you let the animal keep walking toward that narrow alley?
You let it drift. It keeps walking. It puts its head into the alley, then its shoulders. The alley gets tighter and tighter. Now the animal is wedged in. It's completely stuck. Now you snap out of it and realize, oh no, this is a disaster. I shouldn't be here. What do you have to do now to fix the situation?
Now it's a nightmare. I have to get off the animal. I probably have to go around to its rear end and try to grab it by the tail and physically drag a 1,000-pound beast backward out of a tight, narrow space.
And have you ever tried to pull a stubborn donkey backward by its tail?
I can't say that I have, but I have a strong feeling it's basically impossible.
It's exhausting, it's humiliating, it's dangerous, you're probably going to get kicked, and there's a very high chance you will fail. That, the source says, is the position you are in once you have engaged with the sin, once the virtual seclusion has begun, once the emotional attachment starts to form. You are standing in a dark alley, covered in sweat, pulling on a donkey's tail and getting nowhere.
This reminds me of, okay, this is a much more trivial example, but it's very real for me. A bag of potato chips.
Go on.
If the bag of chips is in the pantry, sealed, I'm fine. I can walk past the pantry 100 times a day. That's me turning the beast's head. It's easy. But if I open that bag and I tell myself I'm just going to have one chip.
The beast is now in the alley.
The beast is wedged so deep in the alley it's not coming out. I am not stopping until that bag is empty. The amount of willpower required to stop eating mid-bag is 1,000 times greater than the willpower required to just not open the bag in the first place.
That is the perfect modern analogy. That is exactly the physics of temptation that the source is describing. Prevention is not just, better than the cure. It is exponentially, mathematically easier than the cure.
So the message is, don't be a hero. Don't test your strength.
Don't see if you're strong enough to pull the beast out of the alley. Just be smart enough to turn its head when it's still easy.
So that really covers the lower desire.
Yeah.
Turn the head early. Beware of frictionless technology and understand the physics of temptation. But now we pivot. And we get to the part that I honestly think is, for many of us, even harder to control.
The upper desire.
The tongue.
Mm.
Or, in the year 2026, our thumbs, the keyboard, the comment section, the group chat.
This is a major transition in the lecture. We're moving from the fortress of the body up to the fortress of silence. And the source starts by acknowledging something very honest and, frankly, a little uncomfortable.
Which is?
We love to talk. We are addicted to the sound of our own voices and the sight of our own words.
The text calls it the sweetness of speech.
It does. It argues that speaking, expressing an opinion, telling a story, it gives the ego a little sugar rush. Why do we do it? We want to show people we know something. We want to make them laugh. We want to vent our anger and get validation. We want to correct someone who is wrong on the internet. It's all about projecting our ego out into the world. It's saying, I am here. Acknowledge me.
And right at this point, the lecturer he drops a bomb on the audience. He says very directly, this is not a heart-softening session.
Yeah, he really takes the gloves off there. He's basically saying, I'm not here to give you a comforting talk that makes you feel warm and fuzzy for an hour. This is a call to action.
Yeah.
He explicitly states that he expects the people listening to go out and immediately start practicing silence.
It's a workshop, not a lecture.
Exactly. So to give us a practical framework for this, the expert breaks down all of human conversation into 4 distinct categories or buckets. He calls it the rational division.
And I want to go through these because when I first encountered this breakdown, I found myself getting into a little bit of a mental argument with the text.
I have a very good guess which bucket caused the argument. But let's build up to it. Let's start with the easy ones. Bucket number 1.
Pure good.
This one is simple. Speech that is clearly beneficial, teaching someone something useful, giving sincere advice, comforting a person who is grieving, prayer, remembrance of God. It adds clear value.
Okay, easy enough. Bucket number 2.
Pure evil.
Also pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Lying, slander, gossip, backbiting, verbal abuse, false testimony.
Right. If you have any aspiration to be a decent human being, you take this entire bucket and you throw it in the trash and seal the lid. No debate there.
Then we have bucket number 3, which is the mixed category.
This is the gray area. It's a conversation that starts out good but then drifts into gossip. Or it's a joke that's genuinely funny, but it's at someone else's expense and it hurts their feelings. The source says, a wise person avoids this bucket entirely because the risk of it turning harmful is just too high.
Okay, so far I'm completely on board. Discard pure evil, discard the mixed buckets, obviously keep the pure good. But now we come to bucket number 4.
The neutral bucket.
This is the one that got me. The text defines neutral speech as conversation that is neither harmful nor beneficial. It's just fluff. It's small talk. It's me asking you if you saw the game last night. It's talking about the weather. It's describing the sandwich I had for lunch. And the source says that we should get rid of this bucket too.
The source says that a person who truly understands the value of time discards this bucket without a second thought.
But come on, that feels so extreme. Is talking to my neighbor about his new lawnmower a sin now? Is asking a coworker how their weekend was a waste of life? That sounds incredibly strict. It sounds robotic and inhuman.
I'm glad you're pushing back on this, because it's the natural reaction. It feels like an attack on normal social interaction. But let me try to frame it the way the source does. It's not about sin in the sense of being punished. It's about capital.
Explain what you mean by capital.
Okay, imagine you're a venture capitalist. Every morning, you wake up with $100 million of capital that you have to invest before the day is over.
Okay, nice problem to have.
Right. Now, if you invest that money in a company that gives you a 0% return, you don't lose any money, but you make absolutely nothing. Was that a good investment?
No, of course not. It's a complete waste of potential. I could have put that capital somewhere that generated a return.
That is precisely the argument. The source argues that your time, your every breath, your every minute is your capital. It is the only currency you truly, truly own. So if you spend 30 minutes of that priceless capital on a conversation about a lawnmower, a conversation that brings you no spiritual benefit, no new knowledge, no deeper human connection, you have essentially taken a gemstone, a diamond, and you have willingly swapped it for a clod of dirt.
So it's an opportunity cost argument. The problem isn't that the dirt is poisonous. It's that you could have had a diamond instead.
You've just bankrupted your potential for that half hour. The neutral speech isn't bad because you get demerits for it. It's bad because you are burning your most valuable asset on something that yields zero return. You could have used that time for pure good, for learning, for silent reflection, for deep connection, but you spend it on fluff.
I see. So the goal isn't to be an antisocial robot. The goal is to be an incredibly intentional human being.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. And just to make it even harder, the lecturer adds a terrifying little footnote. He says even inside the pure good bucket, even when you are saying something beneficial and true, there is still a hidden trap.
What's the trap in the good bucket?
The trap is your own ego, your intention. Are you giving that good advice because you genuinely want to help the other person? Or are you giving it because you love the feeling of sounding wise and authoritative?
Oos.
Yeah.
That hits close to home. The guy who plays devil's advocate in a meeting just to show how smart he is.
Exactly that guy. So because of that final risk, the risk that even your good speech can be secretly corrupted by your ego, the source comes to a radical conclusion. The safest, wisest, most profitable default position for a human being is silence.
When in doubt, shut your mouth.
Unless you are 100% certain that what you're about to say is a gemstone, just don't open the vault.
Okay, so let's say we accept this challenge. Let's say I decide, all right, I'm going to become the quiet guy at work. What do I actually gain from that? Because, let's be honest, in our modern corporate culture, the quiet guy is often seen as the weirdo. The loud, charismatic person is the one who gets the promotion.
I think that's a common misconception. And that brings us to part 5 of the source, the virtues of keeping quiet. The source makes a really compelling case for what we might call the introvert advantage.
All right, sell me on it. I need to feel better about all my awkward silences at parties.
The source uses this beautiful phrase. It says, silence gathers ambition.
Gathers ambition. What does that mean?
Think of your internal energy like steam in a steam engine. If that engine has 20 different little holes and cracks and steam is constantly leaking out, the engine can never build up enough pressure to actually move the train forward.
Right, it has no power.
Constant, trivial talking is leaking steam. Every time you chatter aimlessly about your grand plans, oh, one day I'm going to write a book, I'm definitely going to start a new gym routine next week, you are releasing that motivational pressure. You get a little dopamine hit just from saying it, which makes you less likely to actually do it.
I've definitely experienced that. I'll talk about a project so much that I get bored of it before I even start. I've already had the social reward.
Exactly. Silence seals the vessel. It plugs the leaks. The pressure of your ambition builds and builds and builds inside you until it becomes so great that it forces you to take action. The source argues that quiet people are often more effective and productive, not because they're smarter, but because they haven't dissipated all their creative energy into the air through pointless talk.
And the lecturer includes a little tip here for managers in the audience.
Yes, a managerial tip. He says, pay close attention to your quietest employees. They are very likely the ones who are doing the deep analytical work while everyone else is just making noise in meetings. Silence, he says, empties the mind, which allows for real clarity of thought. You simply cannot think deeply if your mouth is always moving.
To really drive this point home, the source then brings out the receipts, as you'd say, a series of heavy-hitting quotes from the tradition that act like artillery shells for this argument.
Some of these are incredibly intense. There's the famous anatomical one. Humans were given 2 ears and 1 mouth so that they would listen twice as much as they speak.
A classic piece of wisdom, but almost impossible to actually practice.
Then you have the agricultural one, the harvest. A quote that says, people are thrown into the fire on their faces because of nothing more than the harvest of their tongues.
That's a really violent image. The harvest of their tongues.
It is. It frames your words as seeds that you are planting in the world every single day. So what kind of crop are you planting? If you plant seeds of gossip, lies, and negativity, you can't be surprised when you have to harvest a field of thorns that ultimately chokes you.
But the quote that really stopped me in my tracks, and honestly I read it, and my first thought was, is that even humanly possible? Was the one from McLeod.
The 50-year streak?
Yeah. He reportedly said, I haven't spoken a word in 50 years that I wanted to apologize for. 50 years. I can't go 50 minutes without saying something I wish I could take back or rephrase. How is that even possible?
It sounds completely superhuman, doesn't it? But if you think about the internal mechanics of how someone could achieve that, it's not that he didn't speak for 50 years. It means that before a single word left his mouth, it had to pass a rigorous internal pre-flight checklist.
He had a delay buffer.
A mental delay button. Exactly. Before the sound waves formed, his brain was running a diagnostic. Is this statement 100% true? Is it absolutely necessary? Is it kind? Will it benefit anyone? And if it failed even one of those checks, he just hit delete. He did that flawlessly for 5 decades. It's a level of moment-to-moment mindfulness that makes our modern mindfulness apps look like a joke.
It's the ultimate fortress of silence. You only lower the drawbridge for the king's procession, not for every random peasant who knocks on the gate.
That's a perfect analogy.
Now, we're coming into the final section of our deep dive. And this is where the rubber really meets the road for us, living in the internet age. The concept of minding your own business.
The source calls it leaving what does not concern you. And it identifies this as the very first affliction of speech, the first disease.
This feels like a direct assault on the entire business model of social media. The whole economy of platforms like Twitter or TikTok is built on one thing: making you care passionately about things that have absolutely zero to do with you.
It's an outrage generation machine. The celebrity who said something dumb, the political scandal in a country you can't point to on a map, the random guy on the internet who has a different opinion about a movie than you do. The algorithm is designed to find these things and shove them in your face until you say, I must have an opinion on this.
And the source is screaming from centuries ago, no, you don't.
The source is asking a simple question. Does this piece of information directly impact your life, your family, your community, or your spiritual standing? If the answer is no, then engaging with it is, once again, trading your precious gemstones for a pile of worthless dirt.
The busy principle is key here, too. The source says the occupied cannot be occupied.
It's just simple physics. 2 objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. If your heart and mind are already fully occupied with useful things, your work, your studies, your family, prayer, silent reflection, you literally do not have the mental RAM available to process the latest celebrity scandal.
But the reverse is also true. If you find yourself spending hours processing that scandal,
it's definitive proof that your heart was empty to begin with. The noise of the world rushed in to fill the vacuum you left.
To illustrate this point, the immense power of minding your own business, the lecture tells this beautiful story about Lichamon the Wise and the prophet David. I want to tell this story properly because the visual is just so powerful.
Please do. It's a great one.
Okay, so the scene is this. Lichamon, who is known throughout history as a paragon of wisdom, enters the workshop of the prophet David. Now, David wasn't just a prophet and a king. He was also a master craftsman. And on this particular day, David is working with iron.
Now, we have to remember the context. This is the Iron Age. What he's doing is the equivalent of high-tech manufacturing today.
Exactly. And David is making something Lukeman has never seen before. He's taking hard, raw iron, and he's crafting it into a suit of chainmail armor. He's linking these tiny metal rings together. Lukeman is fascinated. He is absolutely burning with curiosity. He wants to ask, what is that? What are you making? What is it for?
The urge to know, the urge to speak, must have been overwhelming.
It's bubbling up inside him. The question is right there on the tip of his tongue. But Lucan's wisdom overrides his curiosity. He holds it. He swallows the question. He forces himself to just stand there in complete silence and watch the master work.
Which, by the way, is incredibly socially awkward, just standing there silently watching someone work.
It's super awkward, but he holds the line. He waits. And eventually, David finishes the suit of armor. He stands up. He puts it on. He says, "This is an excellent shield for war."
And just like that, the question is answered without ever being asked.
The information revealed itself through patience. And at that moment, Lukeman says his famous line, "Silence is wisdom, but few are its practitioners."
He realized that by simply waiting, he got the exact same information. But by not asking, he preserved his own dignity, he demonstrated patience, he proved that he had mastery over his impulse to know everything immediately.
It's a total power move. The person who can comfortably wait for information to arrive is in a much stronger position than the person who desperately needs to ask for it right now.
It demonstrates profound internal stability.
So, as we prepare to wrap up, the expert in the lecture gives us one final, chilling concept to keep us awake at night: the recording.
Yeah, this is the theological heavy hitter. It's the belief that your life has a dedicated stenographer.
That every single word you utter is being written down.
Everything, the profound and the profane. From "I love you" to "I ate a sandwich," from "Did you see the game last night" to "I'm tired." The source even mentions a tradition that says every Thursday these records of your speech are reviewed, and the mundane stuff, the entire neutral bucket, is deleted. It's wiped from the permanent record.
So my first thought hearing that is, oh, great. So there's no harm done. I can talk about the weather all day, and it just gets deleted. No big deal.
That's the loophole-seeking brain at work. But the expert reframes it, he says. Forget the deletion. Think about the embarrassment of the review process. Imagine a court stenographer followed you around all day yesterday, recording every single thing you said, and this morning they hand you a 100-page transcript of your day, and you have to sit there and read it.
I would be mortified. I would just cringe on every page. Why did I say that? That was so boring. That was pointless. That was stupid.
Exactly. You would be confronted with page after page after page of nothing, filler, fluff, dirt. And the source argues that the sheer shame of having to face that transcript, of seeing in black and white how much of your precious life was wasted on absolute nonsense, that fear alone should be enough to compel you to silence.
So it's not even about the fear of punishment. It's about the embarrassment of your own mediocrity.
It's about having a higher standard for yourself. Living with the constant awareness that you are on the record fundamentally changes the way you speak. You start to self-edit. You start to curate your words.
You start to build the fortress.
You do.
We have covered such a huge amount of ground in this deep dive. We started with those terrifying divorce statistics, the 20%, the 40%. We realized that virtual seclusion is a modern, frictionless trap designed to exploit our deepest vulnerabilities.
And we learn the most important lesson. Turn the beast's head before it ever gets near the alley. It's 1,000,000 times easier than trying to pull it out by the tail later.
Then we move up to the tongue. We put all of our speech into those 4 buckets. We argued about the neutral bucket, but we ultimately realized that our time is our most valuable capital.
And we learned from the wisdom of Luqman that sometimes, if you can just master the art of waiting, the answer will come to you without you even having to ask.
So that brings us to our final thought, our challenge for you, the listener, today. The source says that a sign of excellence in a person's faith and character is leaving what does not concern you. So I want you to conduct a personal digital audit.
Right now, after this is over, open your phone.
Look at the last 5 text message conversations you had. Look at the last 3 comments you left on social media. Look at the last news article you felt compelled to share with a friend.
And ask yourself the hard, honest question, did this actually concern me?
Did engaging with this improve my life? Did it improve my character? Did it bring me closer to my purpose? Or was I just mindlessly trading a gemstone of my time for a handful of dirt?
Silence isn't empty space, everyone. It's a strategy for a richer life.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us. Stay safe, stay focused, and maybe trying to stay a little bit silent. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.